Have you ever felt like you're carrying a weight that no one else can see? A heaviness in your chest? A lingering tension in your mind? Something that holds you back even when you try to move forward. This invisible burden is emotional baggage, the accumulation of past hurts, regrets, and attachments that silently shape how we experience the present. In the modern world, we're often told to just let it go, as if releasing deep-seated emotions is as simple as dropping a heavy bag. But if it were that easy, wouldn't we all be free by now? The truth is, letting go isn't about suppressing or ignoring pain. It's about transforming our relationship with it. And for thousands of years, Buddhist teachings have offered profound wisdom on how to do exactly that. One of the most powerful lessons in Buddhism is the idea of impermanence, anicca. Everything we experience, from joy to sorrow, is in constant motion, never truly fixed. Yet, we often hold on to past wounds as if they define us, as if they are permanent fixtures in our lives. Imagine clutching a burning coal in your hand, refusing to release it, even as it scorches your skin. This is what we do when we cling to resentment, guilt, or heartbreak. We suffer not because of the past itself, but because of our unwillingness to loosen our grip. A Buddhist parable tells the story of two monks traveling together. As they approached a river, they saw a woman struggling to cross. The elder monk lifted her onto his back, carried her across, and gently set her down on the other side. They continued their journey in silence. Hours passed before the younger monk, unable to contain himself, finally said, "Why did you carry that woman? We monks are not supposed to touch women." The elder monk simply replied, "I set her down at the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story illustrates how we often carry the weight of past experiences long after they have ended. The event itself, the crossing of the river, was fleeting, but the younger monk's mind clung to it, turning it into an unnecessary burden. This is how emotional baggage works. We relive painful moments, replay old conversations, and trap ourselves in cycles of blame and self-doubt. But what if we could learn to truly set things down? One of the foundational Buddhist practices for emotional release is mindfulness, or sati. It is the art of being fully present with our emotions, observing them without judgment or resistance. Instead of suppressing anger, grief, or regret, mindfulness invites us to sit with these feelings as they arise, acknowledging them with compassion rather than fear. To practice this, find a quiet space and take a deep breath. Close your eyes and allow whatever emotion is present to simply exist. Instead of labeling it as good or bad, just notice it, its shape, its weight, its movement. Is it tightness in your chest? A dull ache in your stomach? Breathe into that space. Watch the emotion, and as you exhale, imagine giving it room to expand and dissipate. This act of non-resistance can be deeply healing. Another powerful method for releasing emotional baggage is metta bhavana, or loving-kindness meditation. This practice shifts our internal energy by replacing resentment with compassion, both for ourselves and for others. Many of the wounds we carry are tied to past relationships, whether it's someone who wronged us or someone we feel we've failed. Metta meditation gently unravels these emotional knots, helping us cultivate forgiveness. To begin, sit comfortably and take a few deep breaths. First, direct kindness toward yourself. Silently repeat, "May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May I live with ease." Feel the warmth of these words settle into your heart. Next, think of someone who has brought you joy and send the same wishes to them. Then extend it to someone neutral, perhaps a stranger. Finally, challenge yourself by sending these words to someone who has hurt you, not to condone their actions, but to release yourself from the grip of anger. When we practice metta, we realize that forgiveness is not about excusing another person. It's about liberating ourselves. By practicing mindfulness and loving kindness, we begin to loosen the grip of our past pains. We learn that emotions, like waves, rise and fall naturally if we don't resist them. Instead of drowning in our stories, we become observers, watching, learning, and ultimately letting go. One of the greatest struggles in releasing emotional baggage is our tendency to identify with our pain. We say, "I am broken, I am unworthy," or "I am forever scarred." These statements create a sense of permanence around suffering, making it feel like an unchangeable part of who we are. But Buddhism teaches that the self, the I, we cling to is not a fixed entity. It is ever-changing, like a river flowing through time. This concept is known as anatta, or non-self. The idea may seem abstract, but in reality, it is incredibly freeing. If we are not our thoughts, not our emotions, not our past mistakes, then we have the power to reshape our experience of life. Imagine a glass of muddy water. If you stir it constantly, the water remains murky. But if you allow it to settle, the sediment falls to the bottom, leaving the water clear. Our minds work the same way. When we obsess over our pain, replaying it over and over, it remains muddy. But when we allow stillness, through meditation, self-inquiry, and awareness, we begin to see through the illusion of permanence. Another powerful Buddhist teaching for releasing emotional baggage is the practice of detachment, or upekkha. Detachment does not mean indifference. Rather, it is the ability to engage with life fully without being controlled by it. Think of a lotus flower. It grows in muddy water, yet its petals remain untouched by the dirt. In the same way, we can experience pain, loss, and disappointment without letting these experiences define or consume us. One way to cultivate detachment is through the practice of vipassana, or insight meditation. This involves sitting in stillness and observing thoughts and emotions as they arise, without clinging to them. When a painful memory surfaces, instead of reacting with resistance or judgment, simply acknowledge it. Ah, this is sorrow. Watch how it appears, lingers, and then naturally fades. Just as clouds pass through the sky, without affecting the sky itself, emotions pass through our consciousness without altering our true nature. A story from Buddhist tradition illustrates this beautifully. A man came to the Buddha, furious with someone who had wronged him. "How can I find peace when this person has caused me such suffering?" he asked. The Buddha handed him a cup of water and told him to drop a pinch of salt into it. "Now, drink," he said. The man tasted the water and winced. It was unbearably salty. Then, the Buddha led him to a vast lake and told him to drop the same amount of salt into it. "Now drink from the lake," he said. The man did, and found the water refreshing. The Buddha smiled. "The pain of life is like this salt," he said. "Its bitterness remains the same, but the size of the container holding it makes all the difference. When you narrow your world to a single wound, the pain is overwhelming. But when you expand your heart, that same pain becomes insignificant. This is the essence of detachment, not the absence of emotion, but the ability to hold life's struggles within a vast, open heart. When we release emotional baggage, we do not erase the past, but we change the space in which it exists. Instead of a suffocating weight, it becomes a passing shadow. Instead of defining us, it becomes a lesson that deepens our wisdom and compassion. The final step in releasing emotional baggage is perhaps the most difficult: forgiveness. Not just for others, but for ourselves. Many of us carry burdens of regret, guilt, or resentment, believing that holding on to these emotions protects us from further harm. But Buddhism teaches that clinging to pain is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. We are the ones who get burned. The practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation offers a path to genuine release. This meditation begins with directing kindness toward ourselves. We repeat phrases such as, "May I be happy, may I be free from suffering." At first, this can feel unnatural, especially if we are used to harsh self-judgment. But with time, these words become a gentle antidote to our inner critic. Once we cultivate compassion for ourselves, we extend it to others, even those who have hurt us. This does not mean excusing harmful actions, but rather acknowledging that all beings act from their own wounds and ignorance. A Zen parable tells of a man who was struck by an arrow. Instead of demanding to know who shot it or why, the man simply removed the arrow and treated the wound. Holding on to resentment is like refusing to remove the arrow, letting the poison spread through our veins. True freedom comes when we let go, not for the sake of the other person, but for our own peace. There is another powerful Buddhist story about two monks who encountered a woman struggling to cross a river. One of the monks, bound by strict monastic rules, refused to help. The other monk lifted the woman onto his back and carried her across. Hours later, the first monk reprimanded him, saying, "You broke the rules by touching that woman." The second monk smiled and said, "I set her down hours ago, but you are still carrying her." How often do we do the same? How often do we carry old wounds long after they have passed? Releasing emotional baggage is not about erasing the past, but about making a conscious choice to set it down. The past has already happened. Its only power lies in how we choose to hold it in the present moment. As we move forward, we must remind ourselves that healing is not linear. There will be moments when old wounds resurface, when we feel the weight of past hurts pressing against us again. But each time we have the choice to cling or to let go, to contract or to expand, the more we practice awareness, compassion and detachment, the lighter we become. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What are you still carrying that no longer serves you? And more importantly, are you ready to set it down? If you found this video helpful, consider liking and subscribing to support the channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, and together, let's cultivate a lighter, freer existence. See you in the next video.